Hello,
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Was
I'm
everybody
good. How are
good?
you?
Good, thank you.
So I'm over in Albany and it's 9 degrees. Has the warmth got to Rochester today? No. No,
No,
we're 9 here.
I think it might be 12 or 14 here.
Okay, so we're in the same.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone.
Ellen,
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Michael?
Good afternoon.
Kim, can you let me know when we have our full team?
I sure will.
Hey, Kimberly.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good.
Good afternoon, Chairman Schmidt.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Good, same here.
Don't get too used to that, Chairman. My window seems to be closing very quickly.
Well,
If I didn't do this way, there would have been a coup.
you think so? I don't think so. I don't think so. Any plans with Maggie today? Because Sandra's already dressed up and waiting for me.
You said what?
I didn't miss what you said.
Oh. I was saying, any plans with Maggie because Sandra's already all dressed up.
Oh, no, we are postponing until after the Final Four.
Got it.
I probably won't see her until about the end of April, beginning of, or end of March, beginning of April. So
I hear you.
she was in Alabama yesterday and she's at Bowling Green today. And
Wow.
I think she's going to Indiana tomorrow.
Ouch. Yeah. A lot going on.
We'd have a relationship with via the SEC or the Big Ten Network. That's really how we.
Okay, we have a quorum. We do not have Jesse Dudley or Dr. Morris, but we have the others.
Let me just quickly text Dr. Morrison. Chat mute just for a second.
You know, Kim, I never did get that thing to open up.
Is that right?
Yeah, but it's worked in the past. It must be something
Huh.
at my end because I've been using it for years.
Right.
But
Did it give you,
I-
did it
Are you
give you an
talking
error
about-
message?
Are you talking about the packet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get it same way. I can get it to open on my end either.
Oh, well,
Wow.
good. That's making me feel better.
Yeah, it says, Kim, this time that no preview is available. File is in owner's trash. That's the message I get when I click on it. Yeah.
Interesting. And what about the one attached to the meeting notice? Did that?
Same thing. I tried that one too. It was the same thing.
Yeah, mine just said it had a problem in loading the information. Yeah,
Yeah,
mine,
that's what I
Yeah.
got too. Apparently,
Yeah.
they've taken the two of us and thrown us in the trash here.
That is
You
certainly
know,
not.
It's happened before. I'm not, you know.
Oh,
we should feel bad, but Melissa's in the same boat, so, you know, we're.
yeah.
There's good
That's-
company in the trash.
Yeah, right.
Never.
That's not good, Kim. You gotta let this happen after April, you know?
Right.
So I don't know. But anyway, well, we need to work on it, I guess. That
Yeah.
indicates that there's something going wrong there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am quite certain that everybody on here has a Valentine that is counting on them today. So let's call this meeting to order. And hopefully Dr. Morris and Jesse will be able to join us soon. I just tried to call Dr. Morris and she did not pick up. So okay, so I would like to open our annual. Oh, hang on a moment, please. Lost my- Our board reorganizational meeting. The appointment of 3 new board members resulted in the vacancy of the chair and the treasurer positions. As the vice chair, in accordance with the bylaws, I became the chair until a new chair is elected. As we move into phase 3, I think it is in the best interest of the board that we now elect a new chair and treasurer and have called this reorganizational meeting to do so. Upon the election of a new chair, I will continue as the vice chair as elected by the board during our July 2021 meeting. And I believe my term expires on June 30th of 2022, if I'm understanding correctly. So at this point, I would like to open the floor for nominations for the RJSCB chairperson. I will take the lead and nominate Tom Richards for that position. Do I have a second?
I second it.
Seconded by CFO Pierce. Thank you, Carleen. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, the nominations for chair are closed. All in favor of Mayor Richards to become our new chairperson, say aye.
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 Any nays? Congratulations, Mr. Richards.
Yeah, you just proved there's no fool like an old fool.
Yes, well, I noticed I didn't ask for you to have any statements, so I didn't want to leave it totally closed. Okay, moving right along. I would like now to open the floor for nominations for our RJSCB treasurer.
I'd nominate Kim Jones.
I second it.
Nomination from our new chairperson, Richard, second from CFO Pierce. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
All right. Now, as I'm going to make a motion to close our reorganizational meeting. And I need a second. Somebody?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the reorganizational meeting now is officially closed. So we can now transition seamlessly to our February monthly JSCB meeting. Chairperson Richards, you now have the floor.
Didn't give me much of a warm up there.
No.
One thing that was on the document that you just saw with respect to the annual meeting or the organizational meeting is we do need to do a little reorganization with respect to the committees. I'll pay some personal attention to that and talk to people about it. But we need to be a little more formal about that because we've lost some people in that regard. We got to make sure we can function through that process, which I will pay some attention to. Okay. Well, the first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. That material was circulated to you.
Chairman Richards,
Yes.
I don't believe we opened this meeting. We
Oh.
adjourned the previous meeting, but we need to open this meeting.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Then I'll accept a motion to open the regular monthly meeting.
I'll make the motion.
It's been moved.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. Comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hand. Okay, we got the meeting open and now we can move to the approval of the meeting minutes of the January 10th meeting that was circulated to you in advance and is on the screen. Any
So
comments or questions about it? I'll accept a motion to approve it.
So moved.
It's been moved. We need a second.
I'll second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? If not, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 It's approved. And now to the action items. The first item is Phase 2 budget report. Who's going to handle that?
Good afternoon, Mary Richards. Christopher.
Okay, good.
All excuse me, all pending change order items brought to the committee are included and they are tracking in these expenditures. Hard and soft costs for the first group of projects in Phase 2A totals $164,962,581.23. Expenditures, hard and soft costs for the second group of projects in Phase 2B totals $139,762,547.41. Expenditures, hard and soft costs for the third group of projects in Phase 2C totals $114,100,772.41. Excuse me. Expenditures, hard and soft costs for the fourth and final group of projects in Phase 2D totals $24,521,388.03. Total payments to date for all Phase 2 projects, $443,347,289.08. And that's from 435 million borrowing. That was our bond. We have also approximately 16 million in supplemental funds.
And those are all included, those supplemental funds are all included in the numbers you just reported on.
That is correct.
Yes, sir. And the details of those supplemental funds are the Smart Schools Bond Act reimbursements,
Right.
the community school grants for Monroe and East, some NYSERDA and RJSCB rebates.
And that information was provided to us in the material that got circulated.
Correct.
Okay, questions or comments with respect to the financial status? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the report as submitted.
Chairman
moved.
Richards, we
It's been
don't,
moved and seconded. Any other further questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it passes.
Chairman Richards,
Yes,
before we get to the next item, I was remiss. I did not recognize Superintendent Myers-Small, who was with us today. Dr. Myers-Small is here, as well
Okay.
as our Board of Education Vice President, Vice President LeBron. So forgive me for
Welcome.
not recognizing them at the beginning of the meeting. So
thank you. Yeah, good to have you here. Don't hesitate to ask us a question or to interrupt if you need some further explanation. Okay, the document in front of us.
Chairman Richards, apologize. Action item number 1, to the treasurer, Ms. Jones, we need a budget approval for that.
Yep, so the action item, number 1 is the Phase 2 pay requisition. 21A represents the monthly billing summary, 76A for January of 2022. And the Phase 2 pay requisition number 21A for January totals $387,143.68 to be paid from the cash capital account.
Mhm.
Any questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, I move this item to the board for approval, and I'll need a motion.
We need a motion to accept it.
Yep,
I'll make that motion.
It's been motioned to second,
Second.
Second.
moved and seconded. Other questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Does that take care of that? Takes care of the first 2 action items, I believe.
That's correct, Chairman
Mhm.
Richards.
So that gets us to item number 3, the strategic achievements.
Yes, Chairman Richards, Resolution 93 is for the board to accept Savin's yearly business opportunity program report that outlines the strategic goals and achievements of the BOP for the fiscal year. This report came to the board much later in the year than previous fiscal years because we added the Business Accelerator pilot program, which was added to the BOP this year and continued until this past December. The Business Accelerator program provided the BOP graduates with the tools they need beyond the soft skills they learned from Kim Mitchell, Travis, and many other instructors to successfully win a public bid, to negotiate a contract successfully and improve productivity of their company. So this report essentially concludes the BOP initiative that, if you remember back in 2016, you asked us to put together with the board while reporting on its outcomes and strategic achievements. That's something we do every year. So we would like the board to accept the report after its review.
Okay, what we're doing really is just accepting this particular report. We're not necessarily acting on its contents. But that doesn't mean we aren't interested in it, for sure. So let's, are there any comments or questions about the report or about the BOP program in general?
I do have one.
Yes, please go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't this presented to the Board of Education last year, and will that be done again this year?
This is actually the last report. This concludes the BOP. We do it every year, as you mentioned,
Right.
but this one wraps it up pretty much for the entire phase 2 program. Unless there's one in phase 3, this would be the last one.
But
But
this one has not, I'm sorry.
I think the question, Pepin, was whether that would be shared with the board, of Ed. And I can see no reason why it wouldn't be. It certainly should be, yeah.
Exactly. We can certainly share it with everybody.
So what my specific question was, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, will, Mike, would we be seeking that this is added to a board agenda so that Savin or whomever will come in and present it to the board to show them the outcome of the program?
Kim, I'd like you to take this, but we included it in the packet. So if you want a formal presentation, we certainly can do that.
That's correct.
Why don't we do it this way? Let's
I was going to say,
let's make sure we share this with the Board of Education. Mike, maybe you could take the lead on that. And then if they would like a formal presentation on it, we'd be happy to make sure it gets done.
I was going to say that. I think that would be, so we have a couple different, Carlene and I both are involved on a monthly basis with the Board of Education Finance Committee. It's a committee of the whole. So that may be a logical place for us to land with it, but I'll pick this up and work with Kalia, the board clerk, and see where it's the best fit. And in the meantime, we'll get an electronic copy of this and get it distributed to the board ASAP.
Thank you so
One of
much.
good afternoon, everyone. What we can do is we can submit this to the board either through the Friday letter or as a standalone so that they can look at it. And then the next step would be to have conversations with our board officers. Vice President LeBron is on it with President Elliott. We have those meetings every other Tuesday in the afternoon. We can talk through, and then we can discuss specific next steps of how they
Yep.
want to move forward.
All right, one of the things about this that's important is, and it goes beyond the particular specific achievements, is one of the things we were trying to get at with this BOP program is in increasing the opportunity for minority and smaller businesses. One of the things that we discovered was the number of people who were actually in that category and ready to do this kind of work was small. It was too small. And so as we tried to achieve the numerical results we talked about, we're just drawing from too small a pool. And that's particularly true with these large government projects, which can be a little difficult to work with, quite frankly. So one of the things we're trying to get at here is to increase that pool of people who could do this work and who were eligible, and therefore improve the ultimate outcome. So it is an important part of what we're trying to do here. And it is an important approach to what we're trying to do. So I think it behooves us, when we start up phase 3 here, to take a look at this and say, were we successful at it? I mean, did it in fact achieve what we said it would? I think the answer to that is yes, but there certainly are possibilities of improvement. So I don't want to let the idea just dissipate. It's an important answer that we try to give to a significant problem here. So it has got some significance for where we go, not just where we've been. But we've got a plan to share it with the board, and that would be a good way to get a little more input into it, quite frankly.
We will work with Mr. Schmidt and Ms. Pierce and Kim to put this in front of the board. Absolutely.
Good.
The only other question I have, Tom, is do we have the same responsibility in terms of getting this document in front of city council as well? Has that been a path we've done in the past? And we could obviously follow the same process and work with them. I just want to make sure we don't leave anybody out of the mix.
There's no reason why we shouldn't. I don't know, quite frankly, whether we have done it in the past. I mean, their involvement with the project has been a little less direct than the Board of Education,
Right,
for obvious reasons. But maybe Kim, maybe you could look into that for us and see what they'd like.
Certainly.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you mean? Did you mean me?
I did mean you.
Okay. See, so now we've
You're
got
not.
2 Kims.
Well, you tricked Kim into volunteering. I didn't want you to lose didn't want you to lose the opportunity.
Start using initials, KJ.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. So I'll definitely look into it.
Yeah. Okay, so what we need here then is a motion to accept the report.
I'll move it.
It's been moved, and we need a second.
I'll second it.
And that motion will go with the understanding that we'll make the referrals that were discussed as we reviewed the report. Any other questions or comments?
Chairman Richards, I think that one anticipated question that will come up is the effort to assist the individuals that went through the program with attaining their MWBE certification.
Yeah.
So I know that there were great statistics included within the report, but I did not see that one specifically. And I know that that is an important matter for the Board of Education. It's come up in the past. So I just don't know what percentage of the individuals that have completed the program then have officially obtained MWBE certification with the assistance of BOP.
I don't either off the top of my head, but maybe Kim, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah. I meant the other Kim. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I can see this is gonna be problematic.
This is gonna be problematic here. Yeah, I know.
I thought Kim did that on purpose, actually.
You probably did.
I will say that we are not authorized per se to process certifications, but we had ESD actually come in every cycle to talk about the process, to walk the participants through what it means to be certified, how to get certified. And then we would partner them with PTAC, who also was one of our facilitators for all of the cycles. So what we can do is go through our list and talk about the people who did not have certifications when they came through BOP, connected with PTAC and received their MWBE certification. We did have several of those.
Good.
Mhm.
Maybe we ought to make sure that gets in the information then Kim, because people are going to be looking for it. Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. And by ESD, Kim, you meant the New York State Empire State Development, the certifying agency.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, any further questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, it'll stand received. Okay, where are we here?
The next document is the RSMP Phase 2 wind down document you've asked us to put together. So 2 months ago, you requested the wind down schedule for Phase 2 that summarizes the most critical tasks and deliverables up to our contract amendment date of the 30th of April. So a working draft narrative and Gantt chart were provided for review and implementation. We discussed those 2 documents briefly with Mike Schmidt and Mr. Williams. We will continue to update and use these documents as a roadmap to work with the board, the city, and the school district on completing as many of these tasks as possible. So Rolly, since we both worked on this document together, is there anything else you would like to add?
I do think that you have covered the points, and as always, should anybody have a question, certainly do not hesitate to give Pepin or I a call. We'll try to clarify our intent or any questions that you may have, so it doesn't have to linger until the next board meeting. It is a working document, as Pepin alluded to, that will be updated as more detail or changes arise. But we wanted to give you some sense of our approach to the wind down and close out and our milestone targets.
So if the floor is open for questions, we do have some questions. And Mike Mahaney, I don't want to put you on the spot. Are you able to speak to those questions at this point in time? Or if not, I think he's on. If not, then we will have to take it offline, but we do have some questions with regard to the information.
Yeah, I was just about to suggest, in fact, or to ask, in fact, since we've done this internally, I know, and I've seen it internally, but have we sat down with particularly the school district with this list to see whether, whether it meets their needs?
It was not shared with us prior to the meeting, so that's my concern.
Okay, well, then it seems to me that's the next step here.
Okay, that's
I think
fine.
we should set up, Raleigh, you and Pepin should set up a meeting with the district, because with the city as well, but the district is really the one who has most of the interaction with this stuff that's closed out. So let's make sure we're all working on the same schedule here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We will follow up, and we have a meeting tomorrow morning that at the end of it, Carlene, we can further discuss and coordinate.
Good.
Okay, I have to take a look at my schedule, really. I can't remember if I was, if I'm in that meeting or not. I know there's been some conflicts, but I'll take care of it. Thank you.
Yeah, Colleen, that's actually the monthly 8 a.m. meeting.
Yeah,
with,
I've had some
okay.
conflicts with that happen, so I will see what if I can, what I can do to rearrange things. So thank you.
But Carlene, our schedule certainly is open and adjustable to yours on this topic, and for that matter, any other that you may have. So we will follow up, but we'll start by following up tomorrow and working on acceptable dates.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And we're going to go back to the contingency document, correct? We didn't skip over that one. I was trying to find out where that was on the agenda. Have we come to that item yet?
I'm sorry, which item is that?
The contingency report that you had asked be included in every single packet forward. I couldn't tell exactly. I know it came up earlier in my packet, but I couldn't tell on the agenda specifically where we were going to cover it.
Well, let's go to that now, because we have that, don't we?
Yes, that's it right there.
There we are. So Pepin, why don't you walk us through that?
Sure, absolutely. Again, this is the final usage of the additional funds that were reserved after everything's been assigned or encumbered. The overall contingency for closing out, actually, Kim, can you make it a bit small? I can't see the full page, if you don't mind. Okay. Yes, so the overall contingency for phase 2 started with 3,389,930, and we had a reserve allocated in each of the projects at the beginning of the program itself. And now that we have the talent of it, the amount that's left is 2,191,208, and that's a reclamation of final change orders and lockdown systems and speakers. There's the community school grant reimbursement we received from the East Campus, 156,000. We also collected restitution funds from the architects for the E&O at School 2. That includes the sub-consultant as well, that's 215,000. And we also had savings from negotiations with district-wide technology vendors and on state contracts of 400,000. The contract extensions for the program manager, the ICO, and the program coordinator totaled 582,480. Deducting it from the above amount, we have a total available fund of 5,769,000. So if you could scroll down a bit, Kim, how do we use those dollars? We have about 622,000 reserved for land acquisition costs. The site development conceptual estimate so far is 906,100. That's an old number that will need to be updated to account for COVID-19 impact and other unforeseen occurrences that may creep up. The school district asked us to help them with a masonry restoration project. We reserved $50,000 for that work at School 4. The land acquisition costs for School 54 has a budget for now, $531,000. And we also reserved $1,056,690 for the potential site development work at School 54. That's just for priority A, which is the west side of the site. At DWT 2B, we have 647,272. Those are estimated expenditures through final closeout until the project's completely done. And for East, we're also reserving 564,859. So this usage, and that includes the issues we're having with the busway too, the total is 4,377,921. And the delta between that amount and the 5,769,658 is 1,391,737. Again, we're keeping that as the overall contingency reserves until the entire phase 2 program is closed. Simply because we don't want to have any surprises in case there are litigation issues we need to resolve. And if in case we need to assign more dollars to the land development projects that are being contemplated. And I think there were some considerations to use some of this amount for paying the debt down. That's a decision the school district and the board will have to make as we near completion of the program.
Well, the money that's left over will have to be used to pay the debt down. That's not really a choice. I mean, we either spend it in accordance with the projects or we pay the debt down. We can't. One of the things that I don't know the answer to that we need to think about here is whether we can use any of this money with the understanding that it gets paid back to finance the beginning of phase 3. One of the problems we have is there's a chicken and egg problem when you start one of these phases, particularly phase 3, which has been delayed. And that is, how do you pay for the work that needs to be done to get the project planning in a sufficient condition that we can begin to finance? So there's a certain amount of, there's quite a bit of work to be done there actually, and there's no money to pay for it until the financing is approved and the bonds are issued. And so how is it that we fund that? We don't need to resolve that right now. I mean, I'm not proposing that we do that, but that's something we're going to have to give some very serious thought to here soon, because it has something to do with how we start the last phase.
So this is Carrie Couples, if I may offer just what we did when we bridged between phase 1 and phase 2. The city was kind enough. We did had a special financing arrangement for a bridge ban that was issued until such time
Right.
the bond funding came through. So I don't know if
Right.
that's something you want to entertain.
Yeah, that's one of the options, clearly.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, almost no matter what happens here, we're going to have to do that or something like it.
Right.
Even if we had some money left over and could use it in this phase.
I don't think that's allowable, but I certainly can check with the state, but I didn't think it was allowable to move the money from one phase to start the next phase from what we've heard, but I could be mistaken, and I'm happy to circle back with the state
Yeah.
on.
I think you're right about that. What I had in mind is a mechanism by which we repaid it. In other words, we're allowed to use the cash, but we agreed at some kind of an agreement that set forth that once we financed, we would repay the amount, just as we'd have to repay the city if we got an advance from them.
Yeah.
But you may well be right. Maybe that's not going to work either. And so it's worth checking.
Just for clarity, we've exhausted pretty much all the bond funds. The authorized limits we're right there, except for maybe $2,000 to pay for the trustee or the disseminating agent. So these monies are really the supplemental funds.
Yeah, okay, so that is different. You're right.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. It is different.
Maybe that's a conversation we can have with capital market advisors.
Right.
And the other question that I had was, I know back in January on the 18th, when we had our RJSCB finance meeting, it was stated that the issue, and I don't want to get this wrong, but the issue of the School 4 and School 54 was actually with City Council at that point in time. Has there been any decisions made with regard to those properties?
The planning board approved the recommendation to develop the site at School 54. I believe it's going to City Council for the March meeting. Rolly, you have a better update on that?
That is correct. There was a unanimous recommendation by the City Planning Board on the requested partial abandonment of Chase Street at the west end that Pepin referred to earlier as priority A, and that is slated for the March 22nd City Council meeting for actual formal approval.
Yeah, I just checked that the Chase abandonment is on there, because that requires an official map amendment. So that will be taking place in March. Thank you, Rolly,
Okay.
for covering me on that one while I went and took a look at my notes. But you
you're
are
right,
100% correct. We're good.
It's good.
Raleigh, does where do we stand with respect to the properties?
We,
All of the properties that we wanted to acquire, we have acquired. There are two that are outstanding, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen because it will require, for us to get them, it will require eminent domain. So that doesn't.
So Alan, how is that then figured back into the numbers we just went over?
Those are, they're in there. That's
Right.
already taken into account.
Right, so, but if it's not going to happen, then that frees up additional money in the contingency, correct?
it's
No,
already,
those-
it's already
Those are
been,
taken out, it's already reflected in those numbers.
Right.
Okay, so it's already been taken out.
Yes.
Okay,
Alan, that you say it requires an eminent domain, and the city's not interested in eminent domain. Is that what you're telling me?
I don't think there's much of an appetite right now. I may be wrong. I know with the last city council, there wasn't much. But I haven't, with the current city council, I don't know.
Mhm.
I may have to
Well, I guess
try to survey them to see.
what I'm suggesting, and again, maybe we can talk about this later, but it seems to me that the way this issue should be presented is here's the total plan for School 54. And if we don't take these properties, here's the consequence. And then if the answer is, well, we're not interested, we don't want to force that issue, fine. But I don't think that if we ask in the abstract, do you want to do eminent domain? We don't really get it. Nobody can make an informed decision is what I'm getting at,
Okay.
And because there is a consequence not taking those properties for the plan for these schools. Now that may be fine. And again, the city gets to decide that and we'll live with it. But I think that we ought to make sure that people understand the context in which this is presented.
and not understanding the protocol and how that is done, who typically would be taking that into the city to explain the position and how those properties would actually benefit each of those schools and how it's benefiting those schools? Who is actually responsible for presenting that to the city?
in working with the city departments, we have gone through the preferred scenario as well as the initial scenario, because we clarified with the city that the properties that were previously on hold were no longer being considered because of reluctant owners to sell. So we have presented to the fire marshal and the city departments both plans, the full build out or preferred build out, as well as the priority A West End. And on that point, until there is a formal request or response to condemnation, we do have the backup documents that are necessary for that discussion.
Yeah, I think to answer the question, I think that the deal in terms of who dealt with city council, that would have been Norm, our previous chairman. So we probably need to rethink that a little bit, in terms of how we approach, but he would have been the person who was handling that before. And I know he's discussed it with him. So we'll have to, we'll have to decide how the best way to handle that is.
Truly appreciate that. And one of the issues that we're faced with currently is competing with charter schools. And so as I recall the projects, and I'm probably mixing them together here, but when you're making those schools more appealing, if you will, to the families that could possibly be considering and attending those schools because of, safer green space, more secured, I think, and Rolly, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm trying to remember when we've gone over this in the past, a long time ago, the drawings, but wasn't there a bus loop consideration? There was parking consideration, there was green space consideration. And so part of our initiative at the school district underneath the state monitor's plan is to be able to more effectively compete against charter schools for those children to attend our schools. So I would just ask that that's taken into consideration. And again, Rolly, correct me if I'm wrong, or Pep in some way, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not thinking about the right project, but that's what I'm envisioning right now with those drawings from so long ago.
You are quite correct, Carlene. There are preferred as well as interim plans for both School 54 and School 4. Both of the determinant in both cases is whether or not reluctant or adversarial owners would be reapproached or otherwise convinced to sell their properties. We are prepared at this time to proceed on the partial basis. On School 54, I do want to clarify, we do have significantly complete construction documents for the full build out, and we've had the architect split it into priority A and B so that the board had the flexibility.
Carlene, you're right, and there's another point to it too, and that is that it enhances the school property as a neighborhood asset, because we're creating green space and playgrounds and what have you that's accessible all year round.
Right. And so even if the school didn't retain those properties in the future, you're still adding value to the neighborhood. You know, if it was turned over for whatever purpose, you're still increasing the value in the neighborhood of the property. So I was just wondering, because again, I'm not familiar with the way the politics work behind everything, but I just wanted to make sure that those items were addressed with City Council, and I greatly appreciate you all just listening to me and trying to get this figured out in my own head. So thank you.
Yeah, I
Chairman
think
Richards, just for clarity purposes, the parcels, how many parcels are at the School 4 site are we talking about? I know there's one across the street for sure, but is there any other ones that I'm not thinking of?
Yeah, there are two.
The two adjacent to the.
Yeah, two adjacent to the current school property.
Right.
Both
So three total.
Yes.
And how about at 54? I know 54. The one behind, is it just one or is there?
One. At one. But school
No,
4
two.
there. School 4, there are only two. School 54, same thing, two.
So for everybody's benefit, would we be able to, at our March meeting, be able to share both of those site plans again? We have a lot of new members on the board, and I think it'd be helpful for context purposes, to show the plans and the part where the current parcels are that we're discussing, and maybe there's a way to overlay it, that this will be, if we can secure these parcels or properties, this is what it will look like when it's done. Versus kind of what we're going to have in the short term. And like I said, I don't want to make it more difficult than it needs to be, right? The mental gymnastics are hard enough in all this, but I do think it would be helpful for everybody for that context. I mean, we know the campuses intimately, right? So it's not, but if you're not familiar with the Chase Street properties or the properties along McCree or whatever it is, I think it would be helpful for us to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that we need to, and we'll put this on our list of items to follow up on. Now that we sort of know where we stand financially here, and we're getting to the very end of the phase 2 project, we probably need to develop a strategy for making sure that this issue is really addressed. You know, that we present it to whoever we need to present it to, particularly at the city, and make sure that there's an informed decision made about it with you know, understanding of the consequences and understanding of the opportunity this presents to us. So I think we've got to back up here for a minute and make sure we take another run at this, that, you know, that does justice to it.
Will our meeting occur prior to the City Council meeting in March?
Yes.
There won't be action on this in March if it's going to come through. I mean, the
No, it
March
won't. It won't happen
agenda
in
is.
March anyway.
The March agenda is set, but what I would offer is, one, I'd like to just second what Chairman Richards said about the idea that, you know, eminent domain has to be shown for a public benefit or public advantage. So just, you know, there's no way we would ever there's no municipality anywhere in the country that's going to give you carte blanche on eminent domain. I think what we're talking about going over at our March meeting is exactly what needs to be shown and what limitations there would be to the idea that these schools are not only places of education, but they're also places of play. They're community, basically assets, and we can show that. And so I'm not, whether that would go through Department of Environmental Services, where I sit, or neighborhood or business development, really is irrelevant at this point. I'll be happy to take the lead on working through this through the city departments
That's
as it
great.
relates to making those changes and stuff. So just consider
great.
DES to still be your lead on it.
That's great. And we'll get
course.
organized to do that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Because I just feel like there's an opportunity may slip through our fingers here if we don't, we'll really apply ourselves to it.
I would agree. Plus, I can't look like too much of a slouch with Director Jones stepping up as treasurer. I got to do something here.
Yeah. I know. No. You do have the advantage of being able to blame her husband, yeah, there is that.
Oh, no, never. No, never. Absolutely not. Absolutely not under any circumstances. And that is serious. There's none of that going on. No.
All right, fair enough. So this was presented for information, I believe. Are we set here? Do we have anything else that, Pepin, you want to bring to our attention?
No, this was for information, and we will bring it up every month as requested by Ms. Pierce.
Can we go back? Are we done with the wind down document, or is there a couple of comments?
Yeah, we can go back.
Okay. Yeah, on page 44, at least the version I'm working, page 44, 49, which is the first part of the wind down document. To number 4, it says all of the RSMP phase 2 projects have been submitted with the exception of the following. I would ask that we suggest and say X number of X RSMP phase 2 projects have been submitted with the exception of the following, just because if you look, there's 6 there, but how many projects have actually been, submitted and are done? And then the only other note I have on that is at the bottom of the page under 6, there's asterisks, but I'm not seeing a foot or end note section of this to denote what that might have to do with. So I would just ask for a bit of clarity to just say, X, like, I don't know, whatever it is, 35 of 39 RSMP phase 2 projects have been submitted with the exception of the following, just to give context to what's been done. And then also just note where there's an asterisk. If that's all it is that it's these 3, Forbes School, 4 Flower City, 54 and East Campus. I don't really know that there's a need for an asterisk, but an asterisk to me means that there's going to be a footnote or an end note somewhere that I'm going to be looking for as I was here. So I just ask for a couple considerations on those.
Yeah, well, let's fix that. What is the asterisk doing there, Raleigh?
That is my FUPA. The asterisk relates to the fact that there was additional scope requested at those 3 projects.
Oh, great.
And in that regard, it is not clear, and I certainly apologize.
Why don't you just take it out of there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rolly, may I make one other suggestion? I think because it's a public facing document on some level anyway, now that we're discussing it in a public session. For the projects that are above, I know we're kind of outlining some things in 5 and 6 that are the reasons why that they're late. I think it would probably be a lot cleaner. This is a suggestion, is to just put the rationale as to why the projects are late underneath the actual, when we identify the project. So we don't have to kind of go searching around for it. So if East is the busway challenges that's causing that one to be late, then that's a very clear way for if anybody's asking, outside of this this meeting to be able to give a very succinct answer as to what that is. So I think they're pretty straightforward, but I think having it right next to the actual project makes it more convenient for people who are presenting it in other contexts.
Point taken, and a very constructive observation.
Every once in a while, really, the bar is set so low for me, I vault right over it.
I don't quite fall for that.
Okay, let's move on to the next item here, which I believe should be we haven't done this. We should have the diversity report, which we skipped over from Anson. mansion rather. There we go. If you're talking, we're not hearing you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Tom. Chairman. The December 20th, 2021 Phase 2 compliance numbers are as follows. The analysis of the workforce for December 2021 as presented in the report is the records that were received up through February 7th of this year of 22. We've received 100% of all the records that were requested for the December time period. Approximately just under 97% of all records that were required for Phase 2 have been received and have been analyzed. The analysis of the data of the workforce to date is as follows for Phase 2. We have a total of 1,578,272 hours on the project. During the month of December, there were 1,352 hours on the project. The breakdown of those 1,352 hours are as follows. Minority hours worked, 830. Non-minority women, 75.30. Non-minority male, 446.65. And then comparison of our goals overall on the project month to month are as follows. Minority, both male and female, we have a goal at 22%. We're currently at 26.88. Women, non-minority only, we have a goal of 8% and we're at 6.44. But when you look at that information comparison, the goals overall with the female participation and you break it out separately, minority male only, a goal of 22%, and we're at 23.26. Women, both minority and non-minority, are 8. We have a goal of 8%, and we're at 10.06% through December. Our business participation and utilization are as follows. And this is based on analysis of $394,429,852 of contracts. We have our MBE. We have a goal of 17%. We're currently at 19.07. Our WBE, we have a goal of 10% and we're at 11.80. Our SBE, we have a goal of 3 and we're at 2.52. Our DBE, we also have a goal of 3 and we're at 2.61. When we looked at the participation of Rochester residents working on the project during the month of December, there were 6 individuals who were active on the project during that, out of a total of 18 individuals who worked on the workforce. So 33% of the December workforce were City of Rochester residents.
Okay.
That's our December data, if anybody has any questions.
Certainly does show, among other things, we're winding down here.
When you get down to 8 workers, yes.
Pleased to see the number of documents, though, that you've got, because as you know, when you get towards the end here, it's harder to get cooperation. So we really need to keep an eye on that number to make sure it's very high.
Yep.
Okay, questions or comments about the report?
Yeah, may I ask just a quick question regarding the
Yes.
table at the bottom of the previous page, where we show the breakdown by type of business enterprise. This might just be my misunderstanding, but MBEs and WBEs, as I understand it, were always state designations. DBEs were a federal designation. And I guess what I'm asking is, are these mutually exclusive? In other words, in a lot of cases, when you're working on the engineering side, your M or your WBE is also a DBE. It just really depends on the color of money. So and I apologize if I asked this at the last meeting and didn't take proper notes, but I'm just curious, are these mutually exclusive? In other words, where we're a percentage of, say, like the the WBE at 11.8. I mean, if we needed to get another 0.48 and 0.39% for SBE and DBE, if they were just recategorized, would that happen, or are these combined and not mutually exclusive?
So Richard, the difference between phase one and phase two, they were allowed to change back and forth and to take
Okay.
where they were. On phase two, they're not under the rules. So it's how someone did, because some of the businesses could be both an M and a W, or an
Yep.
M and, can have any combination of multiple different designations. And to your
Yeah.
point, this is off of the state certified list. And yes, the other two, and the D is the federal, and then the S is local piece of it. But so what we do here is that to make sure there's no double counting, everybody, you designate up front if you have multiple certifications as to which one you're going to be applying for on that job.
Okay.
You're quite right too, obviously, that many of the companies that are in the WBE and the MBE could be certainly an SBE. In fact, the majority of them probably. But
Right.
so we've decided to, rather than have it move around, which there was some problem with before,
Yeah.
and there's some problem with the discipline, we'll just stick with this and have
Yeah.
to sort of understand that that's the consequence. It's the same real issue that or it's a similar issue, not the same issue, similar issue to what Brian was reporting above. When you look at women and minorities, you can see that the number, depending on how you count people or how you do it, you can change these numbers. So it's the same sort of issue.
Yeah. No, thank you. Because I guess I look at it, and when we go down to the business participation utilization, my quick math says that between the M and the W, we're at 3.87%
Right.
above goal. Yet for each one of those combined, we're at 0.39 and 0.48, which puts us at like 0.87%. So really, I guess my only point in saying that is really just depending on how things are categorized, we've met all of the goals, even though for a couple
Yeah.
of these we're a little bit less. That's
Yeah.
I guess that's my takeaway on it.
Now, Rich,
Yeah.
and that's a very valid point. And what happens is after the award of a bid, when we're ultimately sitting down with the contractors and they're breaking out, we'll go through that with them as to if they've got a subcontractor that meets multiple categories as to how we ultimately are going to count it and what the percentages are, and work with the prime contractor on it up front. And we've done that with first prioritizing M, then W, and then S, and then the D, working with them on it as to how they're ultimately going to classify them up front on the DP ones after the bid's been awarded and they're finalizing their documents. You'll see when bids are awarded, there'll be a recommendation from me as to how it should go. But with that, there's still some fine tuning of it as they're working out their contracts with all of their subs and everything that were there on it.
Another way of looking at it is, what program goals are we driving here? And I suspect that, or I think that in terms of priorities for us, particularly in the city, it's MBE and WBE. So one of the reasons for doing this, reporting this the way we are, were we to not make those goals, in other words, we're making them now and we have some excess that we could use to help one of the other categories. But let's suppose we weren't. That's something we would want to know, and we will want to know early on, and we would want to make sure that we're pushing on that issue to make sure we make it. So there is a little bit of a value judgment being made there about these categories.
Excellent. Thank you for all of that input. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, I think that gets us through the report. The program management report from Savin, I believe, is next.
Okay, Rolly, you taking this or?
You've been on a roll today.
Okay. So for this report, we only focusing on 3 schools, and we know why they are open, obviously. We are answering warranty calls as they arise. For example, at school 4, although the warranty expired back in November 2021, whenever we receive a call, Rick Stoffel works with the custodians or Tom Case's office to make sure those warranty issues are addressed. The base project is fully completed. We continue to gather closeout documents and submitting those documents to the facilities department. The final cost report is prepared. Actually, they all prepared for all the projects, but some of them could not be filed with SED because we're keeping the project open for the potential site development work that the board is considering with the school district and the city. The same goes for school 54. It follows the same track as school 4. We talked about the land acquisition already. Warranty calls are being addressed. There were some issues with the boilers. One, we thought there was a problem with lead lag or modulation of those 2 boilers. Rick Stoffel's been there this week, and apparently the issues have been resolved. The mechanical contractor provided a proposal to install balancing valves to replace some that have exceeded their useful lives. 90%, 95% of the new lockdown system requested by the securities. Well, maybe now it's 100. That was a December 21 January meeting, but now it's been addressed 100%. Closeout is in progress. The building is fully occupied, and similar to what I mentioned earlier for school 4, the final cost report is prepared and will remain in draft form until the site development work is completed. For East schools, we've replaced a number of small split systems that again exceeded their useful lives. There are some minor control issues being worked on, and Rick Stoffel's on top of that with the school district. We know about the contractor claim that we're still trying to resolve. I believe BSK will have an update on where we are with this claim. It relates to the busway. And lastly, the project closeout is in progress for East.
Pepin, what's the story with these air conditioning units? What's precipitating that, and why is that going on now?
Yeah, there were some in the wiring closets, the data closets that were not, they were not scheduled to be replaced until phase 3. But the district says they're starting to fail. They cannot wait for phase 3. You may as well just go in and replace them. And that's why we started working on it. Right. Okay. Anything else, Worley?
No, you've covered it. And in terms of those split units, they also failed in 2 existing units failed in 2 different computer labs. We replaced those along with the millwork that was damaged. And at this point in time, that part, other than some control finalization, has been cleaned up and addressed.
We don't have a generic issue there, or do we have a, the way I should phrase it, do we have a generic issue there with respect to this type of unit?
No, the units that were there, the problem became they just became obsolete.
Oh, okay.
Waiting the 3 years that we've spanned in terms of hoping that phase 3 would kick in,
right,
was probably a year too long.
Okay. Well, then actually it's a positive development actually to get it taken care of.
Yes.
Okay, questions or comments about the Savin report? Okay, thank you. The last item on here is phase 3 order of operation presentation. I'm not sure I know what that is, to be honest with you.
That is, Chair, that is the, in part and parcel, the sort of the schedule that I sent you and the Vice President to take a look at. It's basically sort of an update of the schedule itself for the RFP, the RFQ, and sort of the order of operations. Once those are done, what happens after that?
Okay, can we show that to the board here? Do we have it in a place where we
Yeah.
can do it, Kim?
Yes, Kim, if you could give me the ability to screen share.
You have it.
Okay.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay, so here's where we are. And what I've done here is really update in terms of where we are for the RFQ. Initially, the RFQ, and this is really the first big change here, for the committee to review the RFQ and select the other firm for the shortlist. That has now been pushed out. And because that's been pushed out, it has a domino effect on everything else. So from the 14th to the 25th, is when the committee will review the RFQs and select the firms for the shortlist. We will announce the shortlist as of the end of February 28th. And then from the 28th to the 14th, the individual firms that are on that list will confirm their interest in submitting a proposal. And this goes for both the program manager as well as the ICO. Again, the clarification questions are due on March 14th, and the answers are provided about 2 weeks later on the 28th. And then on April 11th is when the deadline for the receipt of the RFPs are required. And during that same time, during the week of the 11th, the formation of the selection committee will occur. And then for the week of the 25th is the interview with the shortlisted firms will be interviewed. And then on the week of May 9th, the committee selects the firms to recommend for the contract award. And then from the 16th to the 20th, the mayor, the superintendent, the Board of Ed, and the city council review the committee's recommendation for approval. And then from here, once that is done, it goes before the Board of Education at their May 26th board meeting, then to the Rochester City Council for approval on June 14th. And we anticipate the award being, the contracts being awarded sometime in the week of May 20th. And then, and once that's done, sort of the first really big milepost occurs is when the program manager and the board initiates discussion with the financial advisor to develop the ban for submission for approval to the Rochester City Council. And that hopefully will occur the week of June 27th. And then sometime during the summer of this year, the ICO, the program manager, and the board will initiate work to develop the Phase 3 diversity plan as it called for in the legislation. And at the same time, the other big milepost will be when the RJSCB and the program manager will work with the superintendent to submit the draft Phase 3 comprehensive plan. And then once that's done, that really is the start of, really kicks off the work, because what happens there, once the superintendent submits the draft Phase 3 comprehensive plan to the board, then the board uses that to develop the facilities modernization plan. And on that plan, there are 4 components: the project costs, the financing plan, the diversity plan, as well as public input. And the public input basically is we are required to conduct hearings throughout the city, and that will occur depending on where the projects are selected for the program. And then here I've sort of compressed everything there. There's just a lot of work in these next 4 or 5 bullet points, but I've really summarized them here. Once the the facilities modernization plan is completed, we then submit that as well as the component to the comptroller for the comptroller review and approval. Once a comptroller approves it, it comes back to the RJSCB. And then we submit that plan to the mayor's office to review and to the superintendent's office to review and to approve it. Once the superintendent approves it, we then submit the plan along with the schematic drawings and specifications to to state ed for state ed to review and approve. And once they approve it, then we will submit the project costs on a form provided by the commissioner to review and approve. And at that point really is when, once that approval, we receive that approval, then that's when we actually go out and start the bidding. Now, all in between that, there's just a lot of work going on with the architects, engineers, the program manager, the ICO to get at this point. So.
Yeah, these last items here, obviously, these are things that have to be done together. I mean, the Joint Construction Board needs to be working particularly with the district and then on planning for the projects, and then the city, particularly with respect to some of the financing. We don't want to get in a situation where we do all this work and then hand it over for the first time for people to look at. We're going to have to work on this together so that it makes sense to all of us as we work our way through it. And you can see here that at some point in time, the issue of what the district's plan is with respect to schools could run into this project. Maybe not. Maybe it can be worked out in a way that the final plan for the city school system itself isn't in conflict with this or isn't dependent on it. But we're going to have to make sure we thought our way through that before we go doing something, because obviously if we show up at a public hearing here about what we're going to do to such and such a school, that better make sense in terms of what it is that the district wants. So there'll be some work to do, but fortunately that's later on here. The first part of this is getting the staffing situation in hand and getting the interim financing taken care of. And the schedule that's presented here is okay for that. We've got enough time to get it done.
Ellen, I do have one question. I'm just trying to find the budget document here and the date that the budget has to go before our board and then has to go before the city. Because I was just wondering if that's going to me, those dates look really familiar. And I'm just trying to pull the budget document up. Has that already been, like a reserve time has been placed on the agenda for those board meetings?
No, they have not.
That might just be another consideration. I'm sorry, I just can't pull this up fast enough. I apologize. I'll have it tomorrow morning for our meeting.
Okay, well, I know the dates for the Board of Ed meeting and the City Council meeting, those are on the calendars, but I know for City Council, for example, there is at least a month lead time in order to get on that before the actual council itself, and probably the same thing too for the Board of Ed in terms of going through your review committees and agenda reviews.
For the city, Alan, it would go through agenda review first.
Mm-hmm.
And, then the city council would have their agenda review, and then it would actually be voted on, at the city council meeting in May. So there's a process that we need to address prior to the city council meeting.
Okay.
And I can send you those dates, Alan,
Okay.
if that would help.
Yes. And I think the same thing too for the Board of Ed. There's the actual committee review, or maybe the committees as a whole, or there's the actual business meeting, and then there is I think prior to the business meeting, there is the board work sessions that occur, I think at least a week, maybe 2 weeks before the actual Board of Ed business meeting itself.
And it could be too that Vice President LeBron wants this to go through our finance committee.
Okay.
So just have to check on the dates for that as well.
Okay.
The, looking at all this work that needs to get done here gets me back to the fact that we're gonna have to come up with an interim financing scheme for this. So Kim Jones, I'll, as a way to get this started, I'll contact you if that's okay. And we can
That's-
sort of talk our way through this to see what the best way to approach that is.
Yep, that's actually fine.
Good.
I look
So,
look forward to speaking with you.
because if we don't get a plan in place for that, this stuff is gonna screech to a halt there.
Yep.
Okay. Other questions or comments on this? We got to keep working on this. I appreciate you're getting it done to this point, but we got to keep our eye on this. Because the, not only are there a bunch of things on this list, but some of them are sequential.
Hey,
So,
Chairman
we gotta
Richards,
pay
I'm
attention
sorry.
to that.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I was on an emergency call here with one of my schools. The other thing I was going to add, I think that, and forgive me if this is already, if Carleen already shared, then forgive me for doing it, but we were in a meeting with State Ed as well, and there's going to need to be some other components that the school district is going to have to embed in their plan at the request of State Ed, and also in alignment with some of our district reorganization as well. So what I'll do is I'll give Alan some of that feedback, and so we can adjust a little bit of that of the language in this, so it kind of reflects that other conversation. Because once again, because this is public facing, I don't want to have people kind of drawing not the correct connections we need them to, because we're having a very public conversation at the Board of Education level here around much of our reorganization involving a number of schools. So we need to gain some clarity on that. And this process, because it's public facing, will also help us to work through that as well. So let me add some language here after discussions with our superintendent and deputy superintendents, and then I'll get back, and then we can circle it back to this board. So we're all on the same page.
I did mention some of that, Mike, because.
Oh, you did? Okay, my apologies.
No, I didn't have the detail you did, but I mean, one of the things we have to be careful here is not to give the impression that we know something here that we don't, you know, that certain things are resolved here simply because we have something on our list here. Because that's, you know, there's going to come a point in time when that's not true.
Agreed.
Okay. That's the last issue that I see on the agenda here for the non-action discussion items. Pepin, do we have anything else that you want to put on this list?
We do not. I don't know if Ed and Greg have an update on the HYE claim that's hanging out there.
We don't really have an update. We're kind of in an interesting position because we have some new board members that aren't familiar with that matter, that necessarily have to vote on a proposed settlement that has worked out. I don't know how.
Well, as I understand it, we're not in a position to make a full presentation on that now anyway.
That's right.
That's correct. So what we'll do is we'll schedule that. Let's hope we are at the next meeting. We'll schedule that, and the initial presentation would have to be done in an executive session anyway.
That's right.
So why don't we, in fact, let's do this. Let's put on our agenda for the next meeting that we'll do a full briefing on this, and we'll do it whether we're ready to go or not, because you're right, we've got some people need to be brought up to speed on it. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
Are there other questions or items to go on our agenda?
Yeah, Alan, did you want
Yep.
Brian Feldman to?
Yes, well, I'd like to go into a brief executive session with Brian Feldman. He's going to give us an update on the AG's activity, for lack of a better term, if you would.
And Brian Feldman is an attorney retained by us to deal with the issues associated with the previous complaints that were made concerning MBE compliance.
Yes.
And so we'll need a motion to go into executive session to hear that report.
Move it.
It's been moved. We need a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
or raise your hand. Okay, put us in executive session, if you will. Kim, the other Kim.
And is there anyone besides the board, the attorneys, the ICO and the program manager that need to be included?
Oh,
Sorry, no, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay, just one moment, please.
Is it also possible to stop recording in the executive session?
Absolutely.
Terrific, thank you.
Meeting to a conclusion. I need a motion to conclude our regular session.
So move.
Moved.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. It was a full meeting. I apologize for the subject matter. But in any case, thank you very much for your patience. Good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.